Everyone, welcome to Nathan Ross Rees Reformer Podcast. I'm here today with Brett Starkowitz. Now, it's been a massive journey so far, and I'm really excited to get to know more about Brett today, particularly his background, where he started. I know he's definitely got, it seems like an English and a South African heritage.
Yep. So born and bred in South Africa. Moved to the UK in 2016.
Yep.
But Pilates journey started long time ago before that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I originally at university was studying law and psychology.
Okay.
Is where I started, and that's where I thought my career path was going. And while I was at university, I was really into my gym, and I got really into spinning. And got so into it that I thought, I'm going to take a spinning course and I'm going to be a spinning instructor. So which I did. So I used to do that on and off while I was at university, go and teach classes between lectures and on the weekends. And one of the gyms, this was early 2000s, I'll say 2001, 2002. And one of the gyms I was working in had just got these reformer beds in. And no one had ever heard of this Pilates thing. This was like over 20 years ago. Relatively unknown in South Africa. And the woman who was running the Pilates thing at the gym roped me in and said, come try this. And I did. And I was kind of hooked. It was nothing like we had ever seen before, because group fitness and everything back then was all pretty much, your body pump, your step, your aerobics. There was nothing like it, no form of like resistance controlled, and it was just very new and novel. And from there, it was very hard to actually find a course to do Pilates training with. No one was really offering them 20 plus years ago, especially in South Africa. So she kind of took me under her wing and did the pupillage with me, taking me through all the mat repertoire and the reformer repertoire. And that's how I got into teaching.
Wow. So what year was that?
2002, 2003.
Okay,
so
wow. Awesome.
Pretty long time ago.
Yeah. So your first ever experience on a reformer was back in 2000, early 2000s?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay,
So
cool.
20-something years ago.
Yeah. And from your spin experience, did you find that, what was it that got you hooked? Was it that kind of group energy? Or?
It wasn't really back then done as group classes.
Okay.
It was more like very much on a duo or a trio basis. It was never really like back in the day. Pilates was still very much Joseph's system in terms of you had your really small studio and you would work in a circuit style. So reformer classes were not really a thing. I think that's only recently come about in the last 10, 15 years. Seems to have become a thing. And then I started getting into teaching it. And then from that curiosity, I went and did my full comprehensive training. So that was everything: barrels, trap, chair. And then I started working in traditional Pilates studios. And that's where I spent a good 16 years working like that. And it was mainly one-on-one clients, or maximum 2. And it would be taking them on the full Pilates system through reformer, chair, always doing a mat warm-up. The only group classes we really used to do were mat. And I think what was really interesting then is how Pilates was so inaccessible.
Oh, okay.
In terms of when in this gym that I first used to work in, you had to do mat Pilates first. And only once you had completed a certain amount of mat Pilates classes were you invited to join the reformer class.
Really?
Yeah. There was no such thing as, I'm just rocking up into a reformer class. You had to be invited to join.
Really? So it was like a private club kind of?
It was a private members club,
Really?
and it was very elitist. And the teacher could say, no, you can't be here, and would send you out if
Really?
you hadn't completed a certain amount of mat classes.
Wow. So was there still a big demand to be a part of that club?
Well, it was so exclusive. There were 6 beds, and everyone wanted to be a part of it. So yes, there was a massive demand to be part of it, and it was kind of this badge of honor of, cool, I've been admitted to the Reformer Club. But
Okay. Interesting.
yeah, so that's like my first exposure to group reformer was that.
Okay.
But in terms of those who used to come to me one-to-one clients, it was a bit more accessible, but it was not anything like we see now.
Yep. Wow, what an incredible transformation it's had since that time.
It's really grown, and no one thought it would be this big at any point. It was just never. It was always just very. It was very held, and it wasn't as widely available to people. And then if you did happen to come and do the one-to thing, it was prohibitively expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never an inclusive. It was generally only for a certain level of people who could afford to come and do it.
Invite only, plus the price tag was
Completely inaccessible.
yeah. Okay, so you got the insight into the experience at that time, and you've been able to see everything change over time.
It is. It's wild how it's changed, and it's changed for the better. I think the old guard of Pilates used to be very. I'll give you context. When basically I felt that my first Pilates training was borderline abusive.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In terms of the level of how strict it was, and I remember when we were trying to get into point and flexion of the foot, my teacher trainer would literally sit on my feet to
Really?
get me into point because they're all ex-ballet dancers.
Okay.
So it wasn't a pleasant experience. But you became good instructors because you had it beaten into you.
Sounds like would have been kind of like a little bit of trauma bonding with
I
everybody.
think there's a bit of PTSD from there as well.
It sounds like, to me, I found that actually an interesting topic. If we look at maybe from that time to what it is now, I feel like what it is now is we're finding ways to adapt exercises to suit the general population, so to make it more accessible, and that enables more people to benefit. But at the time, it sounded like it was more you're forced into trying to achieve a certain movement or a certain position.
You were. There wasn't any room for variation. It's like you would spend possibly 20 to 30 minutes just on footwork, making sure you got it absolutely textbook correct. Which is not a bad thing, learning technique, but I kind of think it was to the point where it was overdone, and people lost. It was like you kind of lost the enjoyment of movement.
Yep.
And I think what I've seen is a massive change now is people are just coming to Pilates to enjoy moving, and to have freedom of movement, and it's not this overprescribed classical method that it was. And it's starting to look more to, I don't know if you ever watched old clips of Joseph teaching and that.
It seems pretty. Some of it was
Pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
But it's not how it was moving 20 years ago. It got very pulled back, and now we're just starting to move again. And I think the other massive evolution that I see now is the whole drive for brand Pilates is to make it as inclusive, as accessible as possible, whereas before it used to be completely exclusive, and it was a cult and a club. I mean that in a bad way, but it wasn't something people thought they could feel free to join in. And I think since that mindset has shifted, and people have just chilled out a little bit, and realized that everyone was holding this Pilates thing so close to their chest that it wasn't being able to be shared with everyone. And there generally seemed to be a scarcity kind mindset that if you have success, I can't have success. And there was the competitive nature between studios was wild. Whereas now it's like more Pilates, more people.
Are you speaking specifically of England or South Africa, or are you saying
Everywhere.
Everywhere? Yep.
I've just come back from doing a training in the US as well, and it's also in the whole message we've been getting across there. It's more, the more Pilates there is, the better it is for everyone, the better it is for us.
Yeah. It's very true. I can speak from seeing some changes over time. For example, when Reformer Pilates started to get bigger in Adelaide or in Hobart, Tasmania, initially when there's like one or two studios, there's that kind of like rivalry. But all of a sudden, as soon as it gets to 10 and 20 and 30, it's like it's overwhelmed. Then by the time everyone's like, it's all fine. Like I really feel like as soon as you hit a certain amount of capacity or a certain amount of people in that space, then it's too hard to hold grudges against everybody, and everyone just gets on with it.
And I think people have. I think the initial mindset is, there's only just a few people who want to do this Pilates thing, so there's only room for one studio. And what people now realizing is, there's a lot of people who want to do this Pilates things. The more studios, the better.
Yep. I do think that abundance mindset is the only way, particularly if you are in the business. You're just going to burn yourself out if you're always looking over your shoulder of the next thing.
Absolutely. I think your mindset needs to be being the best at what you do, giving the best service to your clients. And if you are doing that, you shouldn't have to worry about what everyone else is doing.
So tell me about your time here with 10.
So I joined 10 about 4.5 years ago, coming off working on my working for myself for so long and having my own 2 studios back in South Africa.
Hang on a second, we missed that part completely. Okay, let's backtrack.
Yeah.
So you started off in that initial introduction. You got into the exclusive club, and then you opened 2 studios.
I had 2 studios back in South Africa, which I used to run, and those were comprehensive studios. And it was just one-to-ones, and I had partners, and we would work in those studios. But it's not studios like we know now. It's definitely more the classical studios. 2 reformers, a Cadillac, a tower, 2 chairs, and barrels. And we used to work in the traditional Pilates sense of taking people through the true Pilates system, taking people through all the piece of equipment. And when I moved here, and then another part of my story as well, which I didn't add, is I used to work for Reebok Education.
Okay.
And I used to lecture, this is giving my age, their personal training courses, their aerobics courses, their step, their body conditioning courses. So I've been doing lecturing and delivering of courses for a long time. And then when I joined 10, I joined as their head of education because they have their own internal education department. And they've got a Reformer Academy, which they've been running for about 17 years. So it's one of the OG Reformer trainings in London. And I took over that, and it's got all these ancillary courses as well that we run. And when I first took it over in 21, I think we were running like 4 courses a year at, I don't know, maybe half capacity, 3-4 people. Come forward to today, we literally are running courses every month with waitlists. The demand for Pilates education has absolutely skyrocketed.
It's amazing to see this upward tick everywhere. The same is definitely true in Australia, no doubt, and the US is crazy in it as well. But yeah, from your perspective, coming in and taking over such a established organization, did you have anything that you wanted to bring to this organization? Was there a direction you wanted to take it in particular?
I wanted to. I think what I sometimes find is that some of these trainings move too far away from the Pilates principles and what was actually meant to be taught. And given my extensive traditional Pilates background and having a classical training originally, I wanted to make sure that the true essence of Pilates is still being run in the course. Which it is, and it's confidently say that it's an excellent course that they run, and that it's true to the Pilates principles. And it's, for me, I wanted to see that, and we have done that. It's really good, and the level of training we've developed as well. And then over the last 2 years, we've also partnered with Balance Body in the US, which is why I was over there now, because myself and my colleague Adam, we both went and did their master educator training. So we are now qualified to deliver their full Pilates system as well.
Okay.
So it was really nice to be able to deepen that knowledge. So we can, alongside running our courses, we can run all their courses as well.
Oh, okay. So you can sign off on
Yeah.
their stuff too.
So,
Very nice.
and I think interestingly, why we are doing it is, I think Reformer's getting to a peak point, and my guess, and I think their guess is as well, that the rest of the equipment is going to take off as well.
Ah, okay. So you're looking at basically all the different forms of Pilates equipment, and you're saying at the moment you think Reformer has kind of hit its most popular level.
Don't know if it's there yet, but it's
Okay.
getting to a point where people have been doing it for a certain length of time, and the curiosity is going to grow, and it's going to be, okay, I know there's more to this Pilates system. I want to find out. And we're already seeing it now that it's becoming pretty standard that Reformer studios are being fitted out with towers.
Yep.
You're going to start finding chairs popping up next to Reformers, and people want to know the whole system. And I think that's the next boom that's coming. What
Okay.
do you think? Have you noticed anything like that?
Well, there's definitely, if you look at Club Pilates in the US, they have the layout. They have 12 Reformers, chairs. They've got the spring wall, and they seem to create classes with a mixture, almost like you're doing a circuit, but you've got your own equipment. There's definitely locations in Australia that have all different types of equipment. I do think, from what I've seen, now I haven't been around as long as you and haven't seen as many trends as you, but maybe I've seen one thing more specifically, that the return on investment for a group Reformer studio with 14 Reformers plus can be quite good.
Yep.
And that business model seems to be very effective. So that's probably why it's grown so quickly, particularly in Australia in the last 10 years. As soon as that business model was demonstrated, everyone just jumped on that. So I think that's why Reformer is probably the most popular version of the equipment from what I've seen. I'm not sure. I don't know. I suppose I'm also fairly biased because I just kind of have my eyes locked in that Reformer, and that's all I really see.
I'm telling you, open them up. It's coming. It's coming. From the horse's mouth and the people who make the equipment, we can see that it's coming, the next boom. People are naturally curious, and people are going to want to know more.
Yep. So would they be run with the same idea that it'd be basically like, let's say 12 chairs and then a group class around that, or would it?
So I think you're going to start seeing studios popping up with all the equipment.
Yep.
So like your current Reformer studios are all now going to have towers fitted to them.
Okay.
And you're going to be having Reformer and tower classes. I think some of our, not naming competitors, but some competitors are doing that already.
Yep.
And I just think there's going to be this wave of people wanting to know more. One of my colleagues, when we were on this training, they said, currently Reformer is the darling of the moment, but it's going to move.
Okay.
Reformer is always going to be popular. When you look at it is the most versatile piece of the Pilates equipment. It's the one that does the most.
Yep.
But I think it's always important to remember that we've got to view Pilates as a system. It's not just the Reformer. And I think a lot of people who are coming now, when I go back to my original experience, and I told you that you would have to do mat to come to Reformer.
Yep.
I still don't think that's a bad thing, because you got your foundations in mat that you took onto the Reformer, and it taught you to view Pilates as a system and not just a machine. And I think what we're going to start seeing is that people are going to start zooming out from the Reformer and saying, oh, this Pilates thing is a system of movement that's meant to be done on all these different things.
Yep.
And that'll be a really nice full circle moment, because that's exactly what it was intended to be.
Okay. So if you could give us more of like a story and a context from your experience when you're talking about the system. So the philosophy, and how all the components come together to achieve the outcome. How would you put that together? How would you explain that?
It was, the idea is to give your body as much exposure to different stimulus on different pieces of equipment at all. And like from the original Pilates system, you were supposed to go all through your footwork, your spinal articulation work, your hip work, etc., your full body integration and all of that. And the point was to expose you to as many of those different things on as many pieces of equipment as possible to make you adapt. So, for example, you look at one of the key components that's got to be done in every Pilates session is back extension. For me, the Reformer is the least accessible for back extension. There's maybe 2 or 3 exercises which truly lend themselves to back extension. And in a true Pilates session, back extension needs to be done every single time. Whereas you look at the tower, the chair, the mat, the barrels, they're all much better suited to doing that kind of thing. In terms of lateral flexion, which we should be doing in every session as well.
Yep.
Your Reformer, you're pretty much limited to side laterals on the box and mermaid. Whereas your barrel, your chair, your Cadillac give you all these other options. So while you can do them all on the Reformer, you would probably benefit more from doing them on another piece of equipment which does it better. Does that make sense?
Sure. So you're looking to challenge the body in different ways with different equipment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And some pieces of equipment are better suited to, I don't know if you've done step up on a lunge on the chair before.
Standing on top?
On the chair. There's nothing that can quite stimulate that on the Reformer.
Okay. Where can you, what position of the feet?
So you've got your foot on top of the one chair,
Yep.
and your other foot on the pedal.
Yep.
And you're basically doing a step up.
Okay.
And that movement can't really do it on a Reformer unless you're doing just a traditional step up on a box. But it would be best suited on that piece of equipment. So I think by taking pieces from all the equipment, you can give an unparalleled workout, which the Reformer, while it is an exceptional piece of equipment, might not be suited to giving you the best outcome for all the exercises.
Okay. So when you're saying with the step up, are you going all the way up so your foot's coming off, or are you keeping one foot on top of that?
So there's 2
spring-loaded.
versions. You can do it's a forward lunge 1 or 2 on the wonder chair.
Yep.
You can either do the version where you keep your back foot on the pedal and go up and down,
Yep.
or the version where you come to a full step up.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting because the way I've seen it so far is everyone's coming into this space from a different background, and your perception is coloured by the things that you learn first. And I really do think it's interesting because there is a space for everybody, and there's a space for every experience that you want to create. I do love learning about these ideas, though, about like the philosophies and the systems and the goals, because this method, if it is designed to be utilizing all these different forms of equipment to achieve an outcome for the body, basically, what are you looking to create with that body? Basically, someone who's just super adaptable, super flexible and strong. Is there any particular, if you're going to look at someone who has never done this Pilates system before, and then after experiencing 6 months of all the equipment and apparatus and achieving all those systems, what would you expect the difference in their body to be?
The goal for Pilates is to basically make you better at life and adapt you better for life. And one of the interesting things is, do you know why in the Pilates system there are some prone exercises, some supine, some side lying, standing, seated? And it's not because we're bored and we want to get you in different positions. The goal of the system is to mimic as many real life situations that you will find yourself in, and how to be present in those positions that you are going to find yourself in real life.
Okay.
It's not just, I want to do side lying because it looks cool. It's, no, you probably sleep on your side and you're going to have to learn how to get up from your side at some point. That's why we have you side lying. and it's about being able to live your life in this three-dimensional way, whereas traditional training's always been very linear.
Mm-hmm.
I go to gym a lot, you go to gym a lot. Everything we do is pretty linear.
Yep.
Whereas Pilates is like, no, we don't live linear. And we need to try and make you move in all these different planes.
Yep.
Which is what for me is so different about it.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely is the case. I mean, if you do a lot of, let's say, pin-loaded machines at the gym, single plane of motion, range of motion might be full, but if you're not veering off a certain course, then you do tend to get tight in the around the joints, like around the shoulders and the. I know my range of motion, for example. After doing, I used to back in the day when I was getting started in the fitness, I'd you know how you go to like music festivals back in the day, and back then I feel like it was a bigger thing that the guys would go to the gym for like 8 months straight and get like shredded to go
for
to
a
like
festival.
yeah. So back when I was first getting into like personal training stuff, I was looking at all these different methods, and I found this thing called German volume training.
Yeah.
And in that one you do 10 sets of 10. So you do it as a superset. So you might do like to start with, you might do like a chest exercise and a back exercise, one after the other, then have like a rest, maybe 60 seconds or something. And then you do basically 10 sets of that. And by the time I got to the end of that 8-month period, I definitely had much bigger muscles, but I had pretty much no range of motion at all. like getting like scratching your back was like, that was a big challenge. So when I first got onto the Reformer, doing exercises like a shoulder stand or doing exercises like kneeling, shoulder retraction with the straps in your hands, range of motion was so small. But progressively over weeks and months, it was amazing to see the difference in the range of motion that you could get. So it is true, like how you train the body, your body adapts to what you do.
Exactly.
So I do think that if you're challenging your body in all the different ways, then naturally your body's going to be much better suited to different environments.
Be much more responsive, and I think what we always remember is Pilates' goal is not to get you, we all know, is not to get you shredded for a music festival. It's never, you know what I'm saying? If you're coming to Pilates for that, you're probably in the wrong class. Pilates was designed to make you move better, feel better. It's designed for longevity. It's designed for injury prevention, injury rehabilitation. It's still a damn good workout, but the goal is different. And if you're coming to Pilates and expecting those, I mean, the benefit is, yes, you will get into great shape, but the mindset coming in should be, I just want to move better, feel better. And I know sticking with this in 6 months, that's exactly what's going to happen. And for me, that's the adaptation that takes place.
Do you find there's anything missing though? Like the reason I say this is from a lot of the experience I've had talking to a lot of people about different courses they've had, and looking at, if you look at generally the fitness industry, if you're going through a course, they'll be saying things like, okay, so this exercise is a bodyweight exercise, and you'll be looking at how if it was a group fitness thing, they'd be like, okay, if we're going to teach a whole bunch of people, we'll start in a position with the least amount of load, and we'll give options to progress the load, and as clients get stronger, this is how you adapt it so they get stronger. And talking about the spring levels, basically using spring levels to be a harder version of the same thing based on loading. There is so many different ways you can look at it. What I've found, at least from what it seems like for me, is that people don't seem to have a really good understanding at the moment about how to use the spring tension intentionally.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that got lost, because have you ever done a classical Pilates session? Okay. The first thing you will do is footwork on all the springs.
Okay.
That's the first thing you do. There's no light springs, and you don't move at this glacial pace. It's in, out, in, out, in, out. So I don't know where it kind of got lost in the contemporary movement, where we decided to pull the springs off and slow everything down. Sometimes you do need to throw things down, but go stick yourself in a true classical class one day. You will love it because it's exactly what you like. You like load and you like working with a bit of tempo. And that's exactly what it was meant to be initially. And the spring loads in the original classical repertoire are heavy. If you've ever used like classical machines, there's no red, white, blue springs. There's one spring, and it's a heavy spring, and that's it.
There's lots of them.
And there's lots of them. there's no light, medium spring. There's heavy springs. 5 of them go.
Yeah.
So yes, load does need to come in. Obviously, it has to be smart and it has to be able to be controlled. But I think we shouldn't be scared of loading people up if they can manage it, obviously smartly. And we shouldn't be scared of moving people at tempo.
Yeah. 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 Well, I see that as being what you're saying before about the body adapting to different environments. I mean, in your class, if you do have exercise which is slow, exercise that are fast, I mean, that's basically 2 different situations your body needs to be in real life. Because you're not doing everything slow in real life. You know?
No, absolutely not. And that's it's where the variability in Pilates should come in. You should be having this interplay between heavy, light load, depending on what your outcome is.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. No, that's something I really find that's awesome. Even the idea that you're intentionally creating an experience to strengthen people, like building strength and confidence to me is like the thing that it's about, like building classes, creating classes to get that outcome for the clients. That's really, I think, my purpose for being here at all. I really, really love that. The thing I found so amazing about the Reformer is utilizing that spring tension as a gradient, and then it's perfectly correlated to graded exercise. So, you know, if you look at people down, let's say if you're recovering from an injury and they go see a physiotherapist, they're using graded load basically to get the right amount of load and the right movement pattern to strengthen that area of the body. And we can basically take that and scale it all the way in a continuum to like dynamic Reformer Pilates, and everything in between is going to be on there. So understanding how that load works and adapting it to the people you've got, it's like, that's the magic.
But
really.
it's your basic training principles. What do you go to the gym when the weight starts getting easy? What do?
Yep.
You move on to the next one.
Yep.
Why should the Reformer be any different?
That's right. That's right. That's why I'd love to see that mindset become so clear, because the idea that we'll have to use the same spring in a class, like all the Reformers are the same, all the bodies are different. So it's not going to work. It's not going to be the same experience for everybody. The idea that, you know, if someone's been a client now for a couple months and they've been using the same spring the entire time, like it's time to change, you know.
The approach, for me, with the approach when you're teaching is you should go in and you should offer a spectrum of springs for every exercise.
Yeah.
You should say the springs for this exercise. If you go to any of the contemporary manuals and how they teach, it says this exercise can be done from this spring to this spring. And that's how you should be delivering it to your class. Not this very binary, this exercise is done only on a yellow and no other binary, no other options. Bodies are different. Bodies need different things. Strength levels are different. So we should be going in there and saying, right, we're going to do X, Y, Z exercise. Your spring options are, pick one. And I think why that happens is this big fascination with the class has to flow. Yes, it does. And I've had some instructors come to me and they're like so proud. I've managed to design a class which has only got no spring changes. That's nice, well done. But are you getting the desired results you want from one spring? Is that spring going to work for everyone? Have you seen this before?
Oh, for sure. For sure. This is like, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to make that choice, it's going to be a compromise, because if you're going to go for like the ultimate flow where you don't have to change anything, then the spring's either going to be too heavy for someone, too light for someone. If you're really, really good at adapting body positions, either stretch the spring less or stretch the spring more, depending on what you want it to be, it could be optimized a little bit, but it's never going to be as good as it could be if you had multiple spring levels offered, which are basically exactly what everyone needed. So, yeah, but yeah, these kind of topics are like, get me fired up, because it's like my vision of what it would be optimally be for the client is if we go to the effort of putting you in a body position with a spring tension, there should be an outcome. So I don't want to put you in a position with a spring tension if it's not going to get you the outcome. So I'd rather change the spring than keep it the same for no purpose, really. Yeah.
No, and I think we can mitigate that by being very clear at the beginning of the exercise. I'm going to suggest these springs. Pick one.
Yep.
And if your class happens to get up and change their springs, it's okay. It's okay. Just because your flow might be broken for a couple of seconds, it's okay. What is more important, that your class flows seamlessly or that your clients are getting the best experience and the best workout?
Yeah, you want to get the best workout experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the way I like to do it is offering spring levels for exercise, and I love to talk about the experience that they're going to get. And the experience they're going to get, if it's loading, is there's going to be a prime mover. So there's a target muscle group that we're loading and fatiguing. So within that exercise, they're going to start to feel whatever it is, whether it's the butt or like the abs or the chest or the back, they're going to start to feel that. So if the way I love to talk about it is if the target muscle group becomes our reference point, that means that that's the experience we're all meant to be having. So whatever the springs need to be for you to get that experience, they're just going to be whatever they need to be. So if I can at least give you the first spring level, which is a load, which is guaranteed for the average population based on average body mass and body length, that they're going to feel that muscle group working with that spring level. And then I give you the next level, which is a harder version of the same thing. Either more tension is harder if spring tension is the load, or less tension is harder if body weight's the load. Being able to talk about what you're meant to feel, where you're meant to feel it, and then guaranteeing you get that outcome, that is like a good way to make sure, I think, that you're getting good results.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things I love to talk about with people is, if we are doing an exercise, well, what is the target muscle group? What load are we using? And what's the direction of progression? Can you articulate all those things? Because every time you make a decision based on how to make it harder just means how are we loading you more, how you make you fatigue quicker. So it is nice to see this kind of synergy of ideas all coming together and people finding new ways to be effective in delivering it. I just want to, I definitely think that you're exactly the same. You just want to empower people to really kind of make these decisions to the benefit of the people in the machine.
That's what they're there for. That's you as an instructor, our goal is to make sure the people in our class feel better than when they arrived.
Yep.
And however we do that is by challenging them. And we've got to make sure that we give them the best possible outcome every single class.
Yep.
And I think getting onto the topic of load, I think it's also very important to acknowledge that the demographic we are teaching now is very different. Pilates for a long time was viewed as more of a therapeutic, different demographic, possibly people you wouldn't consider loading up. And now that it's started to move more into the fitness thing, we can't be hung up on those old springs. I don't think the learning has kept up with who we are training now. I don't know what you're seeing in New York, but the clients I'm seeing now are not the same as the clients I was seeing 20 years ago.
That's such a good point. The demographics really shifted. The purpose has shifted. That's so true. If you look at that, the way the information that was provided back in the day for the purposes of that time and for the people that was training was probably very, very good. But to try and keep that information and have it be relevant and useful for all these different populations and experiences, it's just not going to be able to hit the mark for everyone.
No, it's not replicable as it was. And I think what also people why it's so important to stay current with Pilates and what's going on is so much has changed in the way we talk about things. So I don't know if you knew this, but neutral pelvis is out.
Oh, there's a lot of things which I've been hoping would go out for a
Neutral
while.
pelvis is gone now. We kind of just refer to it as relative neutral, and if your neutral pelvis happens to have a slight lordosis, that's okay because that's your pelvis.
Yeah.
So we're starting to move away from this cookie cutter plumb line of what a person should look like.
Yeah.
And it's okay, you know what? I'm just going to deal with this body that's in front of me. And if you happen to have a slight lordosis, but you are comfortable there, that's where you're going to live. And that's where your relative neutral is.
Yeah.
So we're even starting to move away from this like strict neutral spine because guess what? We don't live there. We don't.
Yeah.
Just because I tuck your pelvis and get you into the right place, it's not necessarily where your pelvis needs to be.
Yeah.
So it's goodbye. Neutral pelvis is on the way out.
Yeah.
Similarly, I don't know when you originally did your Reformer courses, the breathing used to be so prescriptive, and some would be, you have to inhale here, you have to exhale here.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of relaxing on that. And it's like, you know what, you can choose. You can either inhale or exhale. So a lot of the stuff is changing. And I suppose there was a lot of pushback. I think in a lot of things we saw was there was a lot of involvement with physiotherapists and physical therapists, and they kind of said, no, you're never supposed to feel anything in your neck, and you're never supposed to feel anything in your lower back. So I don't know when you get a class and someone says you're doing a curl up, and they're like, I feel this in my neck. And you should be saying good, because, you know, we're using your neck to come up into a curl up in the hundreds. Are you feeling pain? Maybe that's not a good thing. But are you feeling your muscles work? That's a good thing.
The neck flex is holding up the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But people have been very much deconditioned that you're never allowed to feel anything in your neck, good or bad. And
yeah. No, there's a lot of things there that I don't really agree with at all.
And then people doing back extension, they say, well, I feel this in my lower back. It's like, yes, because we're putting your back into extension. And are we differentiating between pain, or are you just feeling your muscles work? Because the goal is to work your muscles.
Yeah.
So it's kind of undoing all of that, those things that have been put on Pilates, that you should never feel this, this is wrong. Things have changed.
Yeah. They have changed. And good. I mean, our bodies are asymmetrical anyway. Like if you look at someone exactly, they're not exactly proportions.
Have you ever
exactly
seen someone with a pure symmetrical face?
Yeah, it's the same.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Why would your body be symmetrical?
Yeah. So it is aspirational to be like, oh, you know, we want to aim to be perfect human beings and stuff. But I think it's more about kind of adapting it to make sure that we can help you wherever you're at to get to your next level, not forcing you to be a certain way, you know. That's why I love talking about load so much, because seeing the development of the human body, if you get loaded enough and hit mechanical tension, then your body's going to adapt. So that control of that process is like magical in the outcome. But yeah, getting rid of these ideas that, so you have to do this, you have to do that, this is wrong, this is right. Like, I'm a big believer in it's just information, and it could all potentially be useful. It just depends who you're teaching. And
it's all information till it's disproven.
Yeah.
That's pretty much everything.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it's good. It's good that that these conversations can be had. I do find it very fascinating to speak to someone like yourself who's got way more experience than me in different areas of Pilates. Because my mindset, like, to be honest with you, I've never really been that excited about like the more traditional forms of things. I've been fascinated and obsessed by the group fitness forms of it, about how to make it better class experience. Like, my focus has been so purely on that that I've kind of pushed everything out of the way. So to have conversations like this, I really enjoy it. But the one thing I enjoy the most about it, Brett, is that we can talk about these things without actually getting angry and emotional. Because it's really hard to talk about this stuff, particularly online, without people kind of really kind of getting like defensive about, you know, positions on what's good and bad and wrong and right. I really think that just being...
I'm sure we'll get some hate about this.
Oh, that's okay. If people want to say what they think, that's okay. But the thing I think is the best about it is that at least we can talk. You know what I mean? We can talk and still have that dialogue and that respect. And I'm fascinated by the experiences you've had and the things and the journey you've had and the stories you've got and the beliefs you've developed from that. And the position you've created for yourself now where you're mentoring the next generation of instructors coming through. Like, it's really important as a leader that you are, that you're empowering people to have these kind of open mindset.
I think my main goal is I want people now, I think because my first foray into teacher education when I was taught wasn't a very positive experience. And my goal is I never want anyone to have that same experience.
Okay.
That when they become a teacher, they had a really awful, punitive experience to becoming a teacher. Everyone should be enjoying and excited about it, not terrified that you get. It's true. It's true. Things were very different 25 years ago.
Wow. No, I'm listening to what you're saying, and it does sound like it was a pretty tough time. Yeah, it was a pretty tough time. Like, do you think that was a universal standard of how things were taught back in the day, or do you think that was more that particular person?
It was dependent on the person as well, but it was a very elitist, snobby club, and not very welcoming, which it is now. You couldn't just apply to do a course, you had to be approved to do a course. And you had to beg and plead to get on the course. It's so different.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm glad it's changed, that's for sure. I'm glad it's changed. Because it does have an amazing impact on people's life. You know, health is the cornerstone of your life. Also the confidence that you build in the clients when they start to feel better in their body, you know, and the connection they get from the community that you create.
Well, it creates community, and it's one of the very few exercise forms that is just going to see you through all stages of life. Literally, this morning I had a client who brought her 9-month-old baby in, but I taught her when she was pregnant with the kid.
Oh,
And you know what I'm saying? You can see, it's one of those things you can see through. And it was like, oh, I've taught you in utero and I've taught you out utero as well. But it's one of those very few things those few exercise forms that you can pretty much do through any stage of your life.
Yep.
Up to my oldest client who's invited me to their 80th birthday party on Saturday.
Oh, this Saturday?
Yeah. So
that's
it's
amazing.
just like to saying that I've got young clients, midlife, older age, and it works for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does. Because if you look at the effects of doing this workout, basically it's just going to optimize your body wherever you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. I know that if you look at other forms of workout, some of the challenges of different types of workouts can be if you have something that's got a lot of volume and a lot of load and a lot of intensity all in one workout, that's when you start to see, you know, people getting niggles and injuries and things like that. But the nice thing about working, I'll say specifically for me, working with the Reformer, is that you know that the more you work with it, the better the body gets. You're not going to develop problems and injuries over time from that. So it's kind of like a key for a good life, really.
It is. And one of the sayings in the Pilates community is that Pilates will meet you where you're at. So whether you're an elite athlete or you're just getting started out, there is a way of delivering the Pilates system to you that will meet you where you need to be. And that's the level of inclusivity we should be striving for.
Yeah. Yep. Do you think it's there? Do you think it's reached it?
I think it is getting there. It's really interesting to see, like, we talk about established Pilates communities like the US, Australia, the UK. But if you look in where it's still up and coming in Europe and other parts of the world, not there yet.
Not there yet.
Not there yet.
Yeah, I was saying that. Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it's amazing how the perception of everything and the the belief systems are really trapped in different parts of the world in different time periods. You could definitely say that there's a lot of parts of the UK and America and Australia that are like very, very inclusive, very, very, they're experimenting with different forms of equipment, different types of class strategies. And then you go to other parts, and as you said, particularly in parts of Europe where it's like, no, it's exactly how it used to be. But I think everything will change eventually.
I think it's going to get there.
Yeah.
And the sooner we just learn to celebrate movement, that my movement is not better than your form of movement, and that it's possible for two things to coexist. That maybe the way I choose to move and the way you choose to move, or teach movement, can both be okay.
Yep.
Whereas I'm sure you've seen it now in the people who post comments. They're like, it's my way or the highway. And
yeah. What do you think about people that create content like this is not, this is not, like stuff like that?
Sometimes it's valid. I do sometimes I'm sure you see some stuff online and you're like, okay, that is a bit. It's interesting to distinguish between what is Pilates movement and what is merely just doing a workout on the Reformer. And as I said to you, what we do on the Reformer you should be able at some point to tie it back to one of the archival exercises. That, okay, maybe this is an evolution of that exercise, but I can see where it came from. But sometimes you'll see stuff online, you're like, that doesn't really link back to anything that was originally. It's still movement, and that's fine, but maybe it's not an original Pilates movement. So it's not to say it's wrong, but possibly maybe not pure Pilates.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
For sure.
Not to diss anyone else's form of movement, but I kind of get those. That's where it's valid. If you're prepared to say, okay, this doesn't have any foundations in archival Pilates, fair enough. But just to point blank and say, this is not okay, and this is and this isn't, is, I don't know, it's perspective.
It is perspective. I do think that can definitely come across, though, in that tone that you were saying before about us versus them and that wrong and right, and also when it comes to exercise, it's not just where it came from, but who you're giving it to and how it's delivered, because any exercise could potentially cause injury if it's not for the right person. So I see that kind of content. I don't really engage with a lot of that kind of stuff, because I don't feel like it has a real positive feeling to it. Like I'd rather see the excitement of someone maybe having experienced a class, or maybe someone sharing movement inspiration and people like, oh, good on you, this is good, and rather than necessarily, this is good or this is bad. But I do understand where you're coming from if you have that real clear perspective on defining things, then to be able to show the difference between. But I do think that stuff can be very subjective, though. It really is. Like when you're looking at the difference between doing a version of like a bicycle for like ab exercise in a group fitness class versus like something you'd see in like a mat Pilates class, and the difference between it might be the tempo or the range or the
same movement.
Yeah, so it seems like it's kind of like very much a theoretical discussion as opposed to like whether it really matters that much. Yeah.
I don't know. Some people get very up on their high horses, and I think the fear is people see the stuff online and they think it's damaging brand Pilates.
Okay.
I think that's where they kind of get I mean, you do see stuff online that it just looks dangerous.
Yep.
And that, fair enough. If you're going to flag that and say, this is not what we're about, that is fine. But if you're doing a variation of a lunge that's not strictly from the archival, don't know if you've ever seen so in original Pilates, the only lunge you ever did was with your knee down. You never stood on the Reformer. There's one lunge in Pilates on the Reformer. it's evolved that you can now stand next to the reform. You can stand in the box. You can stand in front. You can stand on top. But you can see where it comes from. But if the diehards are going, this lunge on top of the reformer is not Pilates because the only one you were ever meant to do down there is a lunge on the floor. That's kind of not really what we're about.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you mean, what do you mean exactly when you say not really what we're about?
Well, not really what Pilates is about. Like, just if they're saying that there's only one lunge or it's this way or the highway. If you're seeing some random no spring headstand type thing,
Oh yeah.
cool, flag that.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you're doing a variation on an exercise that doesn't quite suit the way you learnt it, that I don't agree with.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, no, I definitely see where you're coming from. But it's interesting when you were speaking then how you touched on the reasoning behind it and you said fear. So is it a fear that the information or the heritage or the story will be lost?
There's a fear that the original repertoire is going to be lost. I think there is that fear that people are not really going to know the original repertoire anymore.
Okay.
Which is what Pilates is about. It's about moving through all those different... Thanks, Nathan. It's about moving through all those different planes. It's not... Thank you. Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. People are worried that the heritage and the fundamental stuff of Pilates is going to be lost, and people are not going to know the joy of the full system.
Okay. Because that would make more sense why they'd react in such a strong way. Because fear would be the only thing that would really justify reacting in such a strong way. Oh yeah, well, I don't know whether necessarily that strategy is probably not necessarily the best for the general image of Pilates either. Anyone who does anything out of fear generally isn't not the best decision they've ever made. Yeah, so it would be nice if we could all just go, do you know what? Nothing will be lost. Everything will be preserved. Everything has its place. And let's just all get on with it, and do the thing that we're most passionate about.
I think one of also the fears is that if we start to see what's out there moving so far away from the Pilates system, that people are not going to get the original benefit that was intended. And they're like, oh, what is this crap? I'm not doing it anymore. And then that, in turn, damages brand Pilates. So I think the fear is that some of the stuff is going to give Pilates a bad rep when people start getting injured, start not getting the promised benefits that they were supposed to get out of it.
Okay. I see what you're saying,
and
though.
That's damaging for the whole brand.
I see what you're saying, though, because I suppose all these different experiences that are coming out, they still associate themselves to Pilates, either with using the form of equipment or at least in the name or something like that. So I could see where you're coming from like that, but it's also the reason that it is so popular now is probably because it has been changed to suit more people, So it's the brand has kind of expanded and it's found a bigger audience. I don't know whether it would have expanded as much as it had if it had stayed exactly the way it was. So
it wasn't designed to. It was only ever mat that was going to be taught on a group level, but this evolution of doing group Pilates classes was never that. If you look at originally how it was taught and how it was meant to be delivered, you were in a small studio, everyone was on their piece of equipment, and you would just do a bit of a round robin and go around, and that was it.
Yep.
And if it had stayed like that, it would never have the impact it's having now. It was never scalable to reach the amount of people it is now. So if it hadn't evolved, we wouldn't be seeing what we see now.
Yep. How do you feel about that? Do you feel it's like still a great thing that everything's
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because I think the fascinating thing for me now is everyone's like, "Have you heard of this Pilates thing?" It's like, "Yeah, I've been doing it for 23 years. I've just been waiting for everyone else to catch up."
You're like, come on, guys, you know.
It's like that. This great. Like, have you heard? It's like, yeah, I'm there. I know what. I've been on top of this for a long, long time. Welcome to the party.
Yes. Well, it makes me happy to see that you're happy because obviously with all the experience you've had and the direction everything's going, um, yeah, it is exciting to see it grow. I mean, I feel at least from in Melbourne in Australia, it's just there's a studio everywhere now. There really is, and everyone's backing themselves and opening up their own version of what it is. You're seeing it like really get into more rural areas now. There's a lot of smaller towns with really much smaller populations that studios are popping up. So as far as benefiting more people are getting opportunity than ever before. Every year there's more studios, more instructors, more. Yeah.
For context, at the beginning of last year, there were about 22, 23 Reformer studios in London. There are now 88.
Wow. Wow.
It was the most popular class on ClassPass last year, with an increased search of 83%.
Wow.
People wanting to do Reformer.
Yeah.
It is undeniable. You cannot miss it at the moment. And the UK Acts have just released, actually the other day, just released their latest report. It is staggering what the fitness industry is bringing in now, and what it's projected to bring in.
Yeah, I do see a bit of a shift in the new generation coming through, where they're not really getting into the alcohol anymore. They're not really going
No,
out. They're actually spending the money on the fitness experiences and the communities. Like they're going on social fitness events together, like going for like cold plunge or going for runs together, and Reformer Pilates. It's interesting.
No, these clubs are now, these new like athletic clubs and all these, they would rather meet for a run on a Saturday morning than go out drinking on a Friday night.
Yep.
It's also been very interesting. You look at some of the big alcohol companies, and they've released their stats about who their demographic is. Young people aren't drinking anymore. They're much more focused on health and wellness, and they're prepared to invest their money in it.
Yeah. So it makes it a very big opportunity for anyone who wants to have a career in this industry, because you got a lot of potential. If you've got the skill set of teaching group Reformer classes, you can go almost anywhere in the world now and pick up work. I got a lot of people, a lot of connections that are moving to even places like Bali, Indonesia, and
Huge.
It's exploding. So you've just got, you can pretty much you could almost do like a work and travel indefinitely. If you just want to go to a different country and teach Reformer there. You could
Easy.
build up a big resume. You could teach anywhere. Pretty cool.
It is. And it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to finish up, Brett, you said before that you're looking into the future and you think that Reformer is definitely up there, potentially getting close to a peak in popularity, and you think that other apparatus are going to be coming into the forefront a little bit more. Are there any other big trends or things that you think might happen?
In Pilates or in the fitness community?
Both.
I think in terms of Pilates, it's definitely going to be this curiosity to learn more about it. When I say Pilates, Reformer's getting to the peak, I don't think there's going to be a peak and a trough. I think it's going to become normal, so normal to the point that the way you open a gym with treadmills, you will be opening a gym with Reformer. It's going to be a standard piece of kit now.
Yep.
That it's going to be completely normalized as a non-negotiable anymore in a gym setting. That, yes, the Reformer has to be there.
Yep.
So I think it's going to become so normal and part of that conversation. And then I think the rest of the stuff is going to come in with it as well.
Yep.
In terms of the rest of the fitness industry, I don't know. Do you?
No, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I do. I think though, from what we just said before, the big shift in moving away from, creating new experiences that enable people to kind of connect socially without needing alcohol or other types of any other stimulants like that, or social lubricants. I think that's a big trend.
I think the big trend is going to be people are not going to just be looking for a reformer class, they're going to be looking for a community. And I think that's kind of the next demand. People want the community element as well, not just the fitness element. And if in your studio you can go and be delivering this community vibe as opposed to just delivering a class, you've got a customer for life.
Yeah. It's an identity if you become a part of a community. You know, you kind of wear the logo with the badge of honor because it's like it's all your team in there. It's so true. And that you have the opportunity to create that community every time you teach, every time you open the door, every time you greet someone. That's an opportunity to create it. But it really, I think it comes from the top down. Like you have to be in an organization that really values that. Otherwise, it's hard to consistently do.
Let's look at all the fitness brands that are successful at the moment, regardless of whether they're Pilates or not. They really hammer on the community element, and people like to belong.
Yep. Yeah, you're going to get a lot more out of it. It's not just a fitness experience, then it's also, belonging to something. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, it's a human need.
On all your travels, do you ever just drop into a gym and do a workout where you know no one, you've got no affiliation to it?
Well, I do go to hotel gyms, but obviously since I'm there.
Compare that to when you're home and you go to your gym with your people.
Yeah.
It's a completely different experience.
You want to walk into a space and have people know who you are. You know what I mean? Like it's such a nice feeling to be recognised by a friendly face who knows your name. That it does make you feel good.
And that you're going to consistently see the same people there all the time. That you build these relationships, and that's what keeps people coming back.
Yep.
I mean, do you have a burning desire to go back to the hotel gym? Probably not.
Only if it's got like a spa or something.
Exactly.
No, but it's true. I mean that you look at social media marketing now. Everyone's really upping their game when it comes to portraying that kind of like community aspect. The benefit is obviously you're going to have incredible client retention because people feel like they belong there. But it's also like if you're going to spend your time there, why wouldn't you want to create a community? Why wouldn't you want to be friends with everybody? So it's that intention as well. Like you bring that intention to your time. You're not just turning up to do a job. It's because you want really a part of this. You want people to feel the same way. All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
today.
Nathan.
We're getting kicked out. It's been an honour to have you in. I'm really looking
Thank you for having me. Thanks for listening to us.
Yeah. And if you ever come out to Australia, definitely give us a shout.
I'll hit you up.
Yeah. All the best, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. Cheers.